Shalom Aleichem, Mishpachah. All glory and praises to the Creator, Yuhei and His most humble Son, Yuhei Wafe, Betnun Sofi, Yuhei Wafe. Welcome back to the channel, family. Today's topic is Moses and the burning bush. Now, we all heard, or maybe even read, the story of Moses concerning him in meeting the Creator at the burning bush. But before we go into that, we need to go back and find out why Moses fled and went to the land of Medina. And I'm gonna read this scripture. It's coming from the book of Exodus, chapter 2. I'm gonna start at verse 14 and read on down to verse 15. And he said, "Who made thee a prince and a judge over us? Intendest thou to kill me, as thou killedest the Egyptian?" And Moses feared and said, "Surely this thing is known." Now when Pharaoh heard the thing, he sought to slay Moses. But Moses fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Medina. And he sat down by the well. Now, it says Moses went to the land of Medina. Why the land of Medina? So now we need to get a little history on the word Medina and this land, right? Now, if you go back into the story of Abraham in Genesis chapter 25, verse 2, actually starting at verse 1, it's where Abraham took a wife after Sarah's death, and her name was Keturah. Abraham had children from Keturah, and one of the sons' name was Medina, right? And you can read that in Genesis chapter 25, verse 2 and verse 6. And it says, but unto the sons of the concubine which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward unto the east country. So this is where Abraham blessed all his sons from Keturah, and he sent them away from Isaac, right, to the land of the east. Now, you go to doing a little study into the word in the land of Medina, you would come to find out that the land of Medina is modern day Saudi Arabia. And they are what we call now in the scriptures the Medites and the Ishmaelites, right? This is where this come into play. Historians located the land of Medina in northwestern Saudi Arabia, east of the Gulf of Abaqa. Now, we all know what Saudi Arabia is, right into this very day. Those are the Israelites. Also in the scriptures go up under the name the Medinians. Also, you can compare that with the story of when the brothers sold Jacob into slavery. They sold him into the it says the Ishmaelites, but it also mentioned that they was the Medites. So these are the same people up under one banner. And notice, all of them were Hebrews. Abraham was Hebrew, but the Ishmaelites were not Israelites. The Ishmaelites and the Mennonites were not Israelites. If that make any sense to you. They were Hebrews, but they were not Israelites. All Hebrews are not Israelites, but all Israelites are Hebrews. Understand that well. But nonetheless, they still are our brothers. They still are our brothers through Abraham. And it was something real strange when Moses went to Medina. And at Medina, the land of Medina, this is where Moses met the priest, right? Exodus chapter 2, verse 16, which reads, "Now the priest of Medina had 7 daughters, and they came and drew water and filled the troughs and the water with their father's flock." Now, understand this well. It says that this was the priest of Medina. Now think about it. The priest is coming from the bloodline of Medinas, right? The tribe of Medinas. which was Abraham's son. And you know, being that that was Abraham's son, that Abraham taught his children about Yahweh. Abraham taught all his children about Yahweh. How else could there be a priest in Medina? From Adam, when Adam was put to sleep, all the way up until the time of Moses, nobody was talking about Yahweh. But here it is. Moses go to the land of Medina, and this is where he get introduced to Yahweh at the burning bush. Are y'all following me? Are you comprehending what's going on here? Now I want y'all to pay close attention to this next scripture as it relates to Moses and the burning bush. Exodus chapter 3 verse 1. And it reads, Now Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Medina. And he led the flock to the backside of the desert, and came to the mountain of God, Yuhewaphe, even to Horeb. Now, when you study the word Horeb, which is spelled Horeb, you will find out that that was the Mount Sinai. The word Horeb and Sinai is the same place. They just hid it up under that word Horeb. Now, this is where Yahweh, Moses met Yahweh at the burning bush. So now, think about it. Here it is. You have the priest of Medina, right? And Moses is leading the flock to the backside of the desert, to the mountain of God, Yuhewaphe. Now think about it. Think about that. What's going on here? Now the flock, that's a whole nother story right there. That's a whole nother allegory, but we're not going to get into that right now. We just dealing with the simple fact of Moses met the high priest, and the high priest Jethro led him to the mountain of Yuhewaphe, Mount Sinai. So somebody was relating and talking with Moses. It was somebody that Moses got introduced to Yahweh through, and that was Jethro, his father-in-law. As the scripture relates and points out very clearly that he led the flock of his father Jethro, which is the congregation, on the backside of the mountain. Mountain symbolizes government. In this particular case, a synagogue, a church, that we call temples. To the backside of Mount Horeb, which is Mount Sinai. So I just want to give you a little brief study on that, family. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Know that Yahweh love you. Yahweh ben Yahweh love you. And so do I. Shalom Aleichem and Aniyah Hov.